to another video. First of all, I just want to appreciate this adorable tea double-walled tumbler that I have. It has bees on it. Look at the bees. This is your cue to grab a drink or a beverage or a snack of some type in preparation for this video. A while back, it was earlier this year, I said 2023 is the year for finishing series. It is the year for finishing the books that I have on my physical TBR. So a better way to spend your Saturday than sitting here spiraling into existential dread while you think about all the book series that you have started and have not finished. So welcome to the video. Today we're talking about all the book series that I'm currently in the middle of. This video is split into 4 parts. We have the series that I'm going to finish, the series that I'm not going to finish, the series that I might finish, the series that I'm up to date on and I'm now waiting on the author to release another book, and then a bonus category of all of the series that I was reading and never finished in the late 2000s, early 2010s. So let's start with the book series that I'm going to finish because I feel like this is the least interesting category. I've probably already spoken about them relatively recently. All right, number 1 is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is his sci-fi series. I've talked ad nauseum about the series recently. Girl with large ego learns how to fly ship to save her human race on alien planet from invading aliens. 2 is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is a political fantasy series. I read the first one, I read it on ebook. I didn't love reading it, but I was overseas. I was reading it on like a Kindle and it was dense. A lot happened, I can't remember the story, but I will read the second one because I have it. 3 is one I wasn't sure if I was going to put on this list, but similar to Ember in the Ashes, I read it when I was overseas. It is Furyborn. This was a dual perspective, dual timeline fantasy book. And the second one's out, and I think there's a third one. I was just very confused. I didn't connect with the story a whole lot, but it was still fun. Like, I had a good time. So I've put it on the guest list for now in the hope that, like, if I feel the kick for that kind of book one day, I know I can pick it up. 4 is a graphic novel series, and it's Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. Anyone who's been around the book internet knows about Lore Olympus. It had its moment a little while ago. I don't know if that's past now, but I still really enjoy it. I need to catch up on Webtoon. I have not done that. And the 3rd book is out and I just haven't picked it up yet. I have vivid memory of completely binging the Webtoon essentially in one weekend. I did nothing else. I was at a concert waiting for the band to start, standing in the mosh pit in the crowd, reading Lore Olympus on my phone. I'm sure the Gang of You's crowd really enjoyed that experience as they walked past and saw me reading about colourful gods. Oh gosh, what number are we up to? 5? Ninth House by Lily Bardugo. This was my first Leigh Bardugo that I read, actually. I didn't read Shadow and Bone first, I read Ninth House. It's a dark academia series. It was very confusing, and that's the resounding review that I've heard about the book. But the second one, Hellbent, was just released. Its cover is gorgeous. However, I'm waiting for it to be released in the paperback size that I have of Ninth House because they release it big first and then they like make a smaller print of it. And by the time that comes out, I'll probably be ready to read it at that point. But now is not that time, so I'm not overly fussed, but I will be continuing. It is on the list. It is the plan. The next one's interesting. The 1000th Floor series by Catherine McGee. This is one of those books that I read probably when I was in university, and it's like a dystopian young adult series that's kind of got a bit of a Gossip Girl vibe. So the premise of the book and the series is that in this world, everyone lives in a tower, and everyone lives in the tower, everything's centrally inside the tower, you don't go outside of the tower. However, the higher up on the tower that you live, the wealthier you are. So we follow a few different perspectives within the story from different levels of the tower. There's drama, there's like mystery, I'm pretty sure there's a murder in there as well somewhere. It was one of those guilty pleasure young adult books that I actually enjoyed because it was a little bit different to what I was used to and what I was reading. 6, 7? Next is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I'm genuinely ashamed that I have not read the rest of the series. Becky Chambers has become one of my favorite writers. She wrote A Psalm for the Wild Built, which is now just my favorite book that I have ever read. And I loved The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I loved the characters, very character-driven story. However, the second one, which I bought and started, follows a different character or not the characters that I wanted it to follow. So I DNF'd it and I didn't read it, and then I never planned on picking it up again. But having read a bit more Becky Chambers and knowing how she develops characters, I'm re-adding it back onto the list to reread to actually finish the series. Just adding another book to my TBR. We definitely need that. We definitely need that. The next one I'm actually quite excited for. You all know that sci-fi is becoming a new favorite genre that I want to explore. And Redemption Falls is a book that I got from my friend Lauren. She bought that for me. Thank you, Lauren. And it's like a heist sci-fi kind of pirate series. I just remember really liking it. It kind of gave me the same vibes as The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and then also Firefly as well. I've read the second one. I haven't got or read any of the rest of the series. I don't even know how many of them there are, but I'm planning on finding the rest of the books and then completing the series because it is great. And again, sci-fi. She's discovered sci-fi again. Next is Twilight, and this is in here because I'm rereading it. Watch this space. Next is Bloodlines by Rochelle Mead. This is her spin-off series to the Vampire Academy series, which is also on this list. It's just not in this category. I do plan on finishing Bloodlines. I literally read every single book except the last one because it came out after I had binge read the rest of the series, and then I just never got around to it. And it's been... When were you released? It's been 8 years since I purchased this book to read. It's been long enough. Our next book comes a little bit left of field and from the realms of the early 2010s, very late 2000s. And that is Prophecy's Ruin. This was one of Baby's first proper fantasy series that she read. And I read the first one and I remember very much enjoying it. I thought it was completely different. It was totally new from anything that I had read before. I never bought the second one, but I wanted to keep reading it. I just didn't have access to online book shopping at that point in my life. For the purpose of this video, we organized all the series and I've decided that we are going to finish it. And finally, in the category of the series that I am actually going to finish is the Crave series by Tracy Wolff, which I'm currently smack bang in the middle of. For some context, these are like 700-800 page fantasy books. Young adult fantasy, young adult vampire, paranormal, romance fantasy. They're between 20 and 24 hour audiobooks. I started reading them on like the 2nd of April and I'm a quarter of the way into book 4. They're not written well, I don't think. They are very much catered to a colloquial writing style, but it makes for very easy listening. And the story is genuinely quite compelling once you get past some of the questionable grammar and vocabulary choices. I'm on book 4. I have book 5 saved, ready to go in my library apps, and book 6 is being released on the 30th of May. So I'm just hoping that I can stretch it out and make it to the 30th of May before I finish book 5. Hi, voiceover Michaela, who is currently editing this video. I forgot to mention also in this category, The Priory of the Orange Tree. At the time of writing the list, I don't think that I had started this at that point. So am currently reading this, will continue to read the series more than likely. All right, moving on to the maybe section. Maybe completing. Oh boy. One is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. I listened to this one. I really enjoyed it actually. It was a contemporary romance series with an autistic main character, which was very refreshing. And then I started to listen to book 2 and I didn't like it. I think I was entering a reading slump at that point. It wasn't quite what I wanted. It didn't follow any of the characters that I liked and the start of the story was a bit odd. So DNF'd that one, but I've put it in the maybe list because I've heard that The Heart Principle is actually the best one and that's number 3. It's a maybe at this point. Watch this space. This is where Vampire Academy comes in because I'm currently rereading it with a bunch of people from the Booked and Busy Discord and we blasted through the first 3. 4 and 5 were rough to get through. Actually, have I even started 5? I don't think I've even started 5 yet. I think my package is about to turn up, which is good timing because my battery's about to run out. It's a maybe because I'm struggling and I might just Google the plot so I can start the Bloodline series because I think it is far superior. Hang on, my package is here. Let me go get my package. Hang 10. K-Pop Confidential is a book that I read when I was obsessed with K-pop. And I was like, this is an interesting, weird concept that aligns with my interests, so I have to know what it's about. It was a really weird blend of like a typical YA fiction, but it depicted the really awful, gross industry of K-pop very, very well from what I know of it. So it was interesting in that sense and I would probably read it again. And then the sequel, if I found the sequel, because I know there is one. I just don't know A, if it's out or B, where it is. So if I come across it, I'll read it. But otherwise, it's not a priority. And that's why it's in the maybe pile. The next one's controversial and that is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I put this in here. It was originally in the not going to complete section, but I figured there was enough controversy in that section without this book. And also, I read this when I had my wisdom teeth out and I was miserable, I was in pain, I was in the middle of a reading slump, and I had literally nothing else to do but sit at home and read, so that's what I did, even though I wasn't enjoying it. That could have had an impact on my liking of the book, so I'm going to try it again to see what we think of it. But also I'm a bit more of a seasoned adult romance smut reader now, and so I feel like I'm going to be less surprised by the amount of overt sexual tension and acts that occurred in this book. Next is The Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. This is here for you to convince me to not unhaul the series and to finish it. And if you cannot do that, it's going into the no pile and then into the donate pile. And last in this category is Crazy Rich Asians, which is a book that I read, I think after I watched the movie or before I watched the movie. Can't remember. I liked both of them. I read the second one, which was China Rich Girlfriend. Yes. And there is a third, but I haven't got it. I haven't read it, and I might read it if I come across it. But until then, I probably won't. All right, end of that section. Did I tell you what my tea is? I'm so excited about my tea. My tea is a banana tea. It's like banana and vanilla and something else, but it's got like almonds in it. It's so cool. I love it. Okay, before we move on to the no category, we're going to do the Waiting on You Boo category, which is the category of book series that I'm up to date in and I'm now waiting on the next book. First up, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I did not know that this was going to be a series until I recently finished reading the first one, and at the end of the book it says, "See you in book 2. So I'm waiting on that. A Deadly Vow by J.D. Ronan is a newly released dark romance fantasy series. The first one ended on a pretty solid cliffhanger. I just need more. Jada, please. More. Next is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is a series that I've read the first 3. There are 2 more that are out in Japan that are in Japanese, so I'm just waiting for them to be translated into English and to be released over here. But Before Your Memory Fades, which is the 3rd one, only just came out towards the end of last year, so we've probably got a little bit of time before that happens. But the next one is pink, and then the one after that is green, and I'm so excited because the colors and the covers of these books are gorgeous. Basically, Cafe in Tokyo allows you to go back in time. However, there's rules, and one of them is that you have to come back before your coffee gets cold. 3 is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I'm confused about this series. I'm up to date. I've read the first 4 in the series. I listened to them. However, she's releasing The Bone Season, so number 1 again, but she's edited it and it's different. Like, she's redone it. And so now I have to read that as well. It's set in London. We follow an Irish girl. Her name is Paige, and she is essentially like one of the highest ranked people in the underworld place. How does one summarize The Bone Season? Clearly, I do not know. Samantha Shannon wrote Priory of the Orange Tree. The prequel to it just came out. It's very popular right now. I'm reading The Priory of the Orange Tree right now. And I do like Samantha Shannon's writing. I think that we're compatible. And I'm sad. She was in Sydney on Thursday. I couldn't leave work to go to Sydney to see Samantha Shannon, but I did manage to get my special editions of Priory of the Orange Tree. So we're all happy, it's all good. Moving on, Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. We all were convinced that this was a duology. And then she left us on a cliffhanger, and then maybe like a week later announced that there was a book 3 coming. So if you are waiting for a series to be finished, don't read this one, it's not finished yet. I thought I was done, but we were not done. Probably the next 2 most obvious ones, A Court of Thorns and Roses and Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. Neither are completed. Waiting on A Court of Thorns and Roses, but Crescent City is released February next year, I think. It's purple, I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a good time. Then we have our 2 other graphic novel series that are in this list, and it is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I think the 5th volume is coming out soon, and I think it's the last one. I could just read it on Webtoon, but I'm not gonna do that. And Bloom by Kevin Panetta, which is a very similar series to Heartstopper. Bit of a different storyline, but similar vibes. And to be honest, I think I liked it more. And the last one in this category is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Now, just Patrick, we're on a first name basis now, you and I, because I feel like I've been waiting for you for so long. But I'm just waiting on you, man. If you write this book, I will read the shit out of it. If you release Doors of Stone tomorrow, I will be there. But alas, we have no release date. We've had no release date for, 10 years at this point for book 3? Is it even going to be a trilogy? We don't know yet. Patrick, please feed us. The Name of the Wind is a fantasy series that I love. There's only 2 books out right now, and a novella that I didn't finish. It is a very detailed, very well written story with a prodigy science wizard who's trying to learn the name of the wind, because once you learn the name of something, you have power and control over it. Very good series. Patrick, my man, please help us out. All right, the moment you have all been waiting for, the no category. We're just gonna come out of the gates with a bang. The Puppy War by R.F. Kuang. I buddy read this with Kirsty. Neither of us liked this book. It was confusing, made no sense, could not picture for the life of me what the world that we were in looked like, what was happening. There were weird time jumps. I like fantasy usually, and I can usually tolerate a political fantasy, but I just couldn't cop the Puppy War, I'm sorry, and I'm not doing it anymore. 2 is Ice Planet Barbarians, the book that I had no clue what I was walking into, when realistically I probably should have had a clue. If I had bought the book that had the original cover on it, gives you a bit more context as to the content of this book. And there are, I think, at least 20 books in this series, and I will be reading no more of them. Next is Witch, which I feel like deserves a category for itself. It didn't really fit into any of my 4 categories that I had. I am aware that I will probably never finish reading this series. However, I'm going to continue to hunt down and purchase the remainder of the series. I have been reading this, I reckon, for more than 15 years at this point. It is a formative part of my childhood. I'm even considering trying to find the graphic novel, which would be far preferable to actually reading the novels because the words were just not good. But I think I'm missing like 3 or 4 of them, and I'm gonna keep tracking them down because it's a collector's item at this point. Next is The Sad Ghost Club, which was an adorable little graphic novel about 2, I think they're people, but they're wearing sheets, so they're ghosts. So 2 ghosts that essentially have social anxiety, and they're trying to support each other to attend a party when they're rather depressed. It was lovely, it was adorable, but it just didn't resonate with me, so I'm not going to continue on with that one. The next one. I'm sorry, Kirsty, but I will not be finishing A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I tried, I read the first one, I just didn't love it, just didn't feel right. Didn't click, wasn't a giant fan. Then there is Zodiac Academy. I have a weird relationship with this series because I've had a few moments where I'm like, maybe I should continue, maybe I should keep going. Everyone says that it's amazing. But I had a realization recently when I started listening to Crave is that Crave is what I wanted Zodiac Academy to be. It gives me all of the things that I wanted from that series. This is a adult, but young adult, but new adult fantasy series with many paranormals, 2 twins who are essentially heirs to this paranormal world, and they get thrown into said paranormal world where there is magic based on your star signs. It's a bully romance, and that is the reason that I will not be continuing because I do not agree with the sheer amount of trauma that these girls went through in the first book, and then knowing that they're going to end up with the people who have traumatized them in subsequent books. Anywho, Tokyo Ever After is on this list. Apparently I read it, but I could not tell you for the life of me what the plot of this book was. I don't even remember reading it. Is this the one where she goes to Tokyo and her dad's a prince or something? And then she falls in love with the bodyguard. Yes, I do remember this one. I'm not gonna keep reading it. It's clearly left an impact on me. Next is This Is Not the Jess Show. I did not enjoy this, not one single minute of it. Moving on. Blaze of Glory. I'm confused where this book came from. Lauren, did you buy me this? I know that you recommended it, but did you buy it for me? Because I can't remember. Regardless, I read it as a buddy read with Paige from Pages with Paige, and it was fine. It was like a middle grade prodigy wizard trope book. It was fine. I'm not enthralled to keep going. I think there's like 4 or 5 books in the series, and I just clearly have so many series, I don't have time for that. A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness is the other book that I read when I was recovering from having my wisdom teeth taken out. I was in a reading slump, had nothing else to do. Thought it was fine. I probably would have put it in the maybe pile if everyone had told me that the second one was just as good as the first one, but that is not the case, and apparently the second one is not as good as the first one. So, will not be doing that. Next is Bridgerton. Just watch the show. That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon is the next one. I've talked about this recently. The third one has just been announced or released, and the covers keep intriguing me. They're beautiful covers. Look at it. I like the covers, but I just didn't think it was worth A, what I paid for it, and B, the amount of effort it took me to get through this 150 pages. It's a no from me. Another relatively controversial one is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. My personal opinion of this series is that to enjoy it, you have to have at least a working knowledge or understanding or connection to New York City, because the main characters in this book are the boroughs of New York City. As someone who lives in the Southern Hemisphere, I have no clue about New York. I've never been to New York. I don't know anything about the city or the people or the landmarks. I have no knowledge. It was a huge gap in my ability to actually connect and enjoy this book. And then we have Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. The show is just as good, if not better, than the books. It is incredibly accurate. There is very minimal that's cut out, and we get to be graced with Sam Heughan. So just watch the show. All right, 5 left in this category. We're nearly there, fam. The Witcher. Again, just watch the show. Haven't played the game, would probably play the game if it didn't spoil the show, because I love the show. But since we've announced that Liam Hemsworth is now Geralt, I might just play the games instead. Next is A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which is a book that I listened to when I was at uni. That was 6 years ago at this point. Oh my God. I think there's 2 more out in the series. No. 3 Dark Crowns by Kendall Blake. I recently unhauled this. Evident. Not gonna keep reading the series. It was interesting, but it just didn't grip me like I wanted it to. It was something about 3 sisters, they had different powers, and I think they had to kill one another to get the ultimate crown, to be the ultimate ruler. Next was Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I mean, the movie, again, is probably just as good, but then they released a sequel, and I was like, how? But then they did, and it was fine. It was okay. And then they released a 3rd one. And again, how? Why? I have zero intention of going back into those books, I would say. 2 left. Both fantasy series, both read a very long time ago. Both I do not remember the majority of the plot of these. The Painted Man by Peter V. Brett. I think I read the first 4. It was a bit of a slog to get through them because they're incredibly dense, and I was not good at reading dense high fantasies back in the day. And then The Left Hand of God, which was, I think, one of my first forays into high fantasy books. Again, can't remember anything from it. Voiceover. Meekela also here once again. Hello. I forgot it was on the list. I just didn't see it. The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. I will not be continuing this series. I didn't like the love triangle. I've heard that her other series, the Thieves Sword Dance, is good. I could put that in the maybe if you convince me, but at this point it's a no. Okay, back to the video. All right, we've nearly made it to the end. Welcome to the last bonus category, which is my personal favorite, to be honest with you, because it just shows some of the very odd content that I've consumed over the years. It is a general rule for this category that I will not be continuing to read these series at this point in time. So first is The Edge of Everything by Jeff Giles. Jeff Giles, GIF. I don't remember the plot of this book. I remember there's a fight on ice at the end of it, but I remembered very much enjoying it. The feeling it gave me was a good one. The next 2 are manga Noragami and Nisekoi. I think I read the first 3 of both of them because that's what I had, but manga is expensive and there are many volumes of it. There are very few manga series that I own for that reason. Then we have Zenith by Sasha Alsberg, and I don't think that I should have actually added this to the list because I don't think I can even say that I finished the first one. I was so deep in BookTube at that point, I would have read anything that the people that I watched put out because I was just obsessed. But that is what drove me to start my own channel. Here we are for that reason. How the turns have tabled. The Fire Within series is a series that holds a very special place in my heart. I don't remember the plot, but I remember the premise. It's, I think, maybe 7 or 8 books. I might have only read 5 out of them, but I own the series. A guy starts boarding with this woman who is a potter. She makes pottery things. But one of the things that she makes are these little pottery dragons. And they're all throughout the house. They're in the bathroom, the kitchen, everywhere. They're actually alive. They're actually real dragons. And so she imbues them with this little fire heart thing that I think she keeps in the freezer from memory. She makes him his own little dragon and it becomes his dragon. And it's this whole adventure fantasy series. And his dragon's name was Gadzooks. And I wanted to name every pet that I had from that moment on Gadzooks. I might reread them at some point in my life. Again, very special nostalgic place deep inside. Oh boy, the rest are very telling of my age. Gosh, I feel old. Matched by Ali Condi. I read the first 2, never read the 3rd one. Beautiful Creatures. I don't remember who wrote this. I don't remember the story of it either, but it was very much that fantasy young adult magical creature time. The Angels. Does everyone remember the Angels moment that we had? The Hush Hush, The Fallen. It was in that category of reading. Need. Head empty. No thoughts for this one. It looks like a vampire book, but I cannot confirm or deny that. Ranger's Apprentice. Great book. Fantastic. Middle grade book. Loved this one. Never finished the series. The Vampire Diaries, another one that I was obsessed with the show and didn't read them until after I had watched the show. The show, in my opinion, vastly better. I owned more than I finished, and I think I don't even own all of them. How to Train Your Dragon is the second last one. Again, I read it because I liked the movie. If you told me that this book is related to this movie, I would not believe you. They don't have any of the same characters, aside from maybe some of the dragon breeds. They don't really have the same storyline at all, and the vibes are just very different. Just watch the movies. And last but not least, the telltale sign that you were an Australian child growing up in the 2000s, Del Toro Quest. The book that is the reason I have such a detailed knowledge of some gemstones. And that is it. That is all of the series I'm in the middle of. I don't know the final tallies for each category. How many of the series am I actually going to complete? This is the yes category. This is the total of the category no. This is the total for the maybes, and then everything else. Again, the purpose of this video is to hold me semi-accountable, to organize myself as to what books I'm actually going to keep, what books I'm going to pursue finishing, and to give myself some clarity, because I'm pretty sure we're in the middle of 63 book series right now. So let's compartmentalize some of that. Let's put them in tiny little boxes, please. Help me. But anyway, that is the end of this video. I've been filming for a very long time. I'm losing my voice, so I'm gonna go. But thank you so much for sticking around with me if you've made it this far. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having a fantastic day or night or whatever time it is where you are in the world. And I will see you next week. Goodbye.